You're listening to Dramas Over Flowers with Saya, Anisa, and Paroma.
Hi everyone, this is Saya.
Hi, it's Anisa.
And it's Paroma. Welcome back to another long yak.
Hey.
Yay.
We've actually watched new dramas on time.
Yes.
I'm proud of us.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
So let's dive right in with the first drama which Paroma forced us to watch for homework so that we could do this episode. Thank you. That is My Lovely Liar, which stars Kim So-hyun, Hwang Min-yeon, So Ji-hoon, and Lee Si-woo.
운명의 수레 바뀌네요.
저 무서워하시잖아요.
엄만 그냥 내가 싫지. 그냥 무섭지.
살펴보면 콩가루 좀 안 섞인 집 없습니다.
이젠 내 앞에서 얼굴 안 가려도 괜찮나 봐요?
난 그냥 잘 보이고 싶어서요.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've watched Kim So-hyun in a drama. Let me tell you quickly, let me give you the one-line synopsis. Thank you, de-addicts. It is about a woman who can't trust people because of her ability to detect lies, who gets involved with a genius composer accused of murder. And that the leading character is played by Kim So-hyun, and the person accused of murder is Hwang Min-yeon, who I think everybody knows from Alchemy of Souls, but I have recently discovered him in like a hype variety show because he's super cute. Yeah,
And
okay,
I know
anyway.
him from neither thing. So he's new to
Do you
me.
know him? Oh, right. He is/was a member of Newest, which I don't remember if they're active or disbanded or like they're just two of them now or something. I'm getting this totally wrong. I'm sorry for the fans of this
Most importantly,
group/duo.
he recently had an interview with Yoongi
Sugar!
and Suchwita, and it turns out that he debuted a year before BTS, and that is the most important piece of information.
Is he older
know
or
about him.
younger?
I can't
He
tell.
seems very young.
He does.
He's 27. He's 95.
But
Yeah.
he just comes across as a kid. Like that's just his manner is very young.
One of the other main characters is played by So Ji-hoon, and they have a very similar vibe. He actually reminds me of Chao-nu a lot.
I was gonna
What,
say
Hwang
this
Min-yeon?
boy
Yeah.
has he has Chao-nu face. Exactly
Yeah,
Chao-nu
he
face.
does.
The looks, the blankness, the lack of acting talent. Okay, people are gonna roast me. I'm sorry. This guy's not working for me.
He's just cute. I mean, I've seen him being himself, so that's why I'm squealing.
Well, that's why they cast idols, right? Is because you have this pre-existing affection from their fans that is not necessarily earned by their acting talent or their experience acting.
But the K-pop world also seems to like cast for their groups with the Chewing face like in mind. So a lot of these boys easily transition to main lead roles because their face kind of screams Korean drama main lead.
yeah.
I mean, the talent doesn't always back it up, but sometimes you get, a Rowan, for instance. So it
true.
works out.
But in fairness, he is a rookie actor in pretty much every respect. The problem, I guess, comes when you cast him across someone like Kim So-hyun, who is not a rookie.
Oh,
The very
ho,
opposite-
ho, ho.
The total opposite of rookie.
Wait, hold on. Are you telling me are you finding his like performance in this drama like
I'm
not up to
not.
par?
No. I'm enjoying it. I'm probably not having.
Wait,
I mean,
I mean, do you
watched one
guys think
episode.
he's good in this?
He hasn't had anything
Yeah.
more to do. But I mean, you've probably watched more Paroma. I've watched one episode plus 11 minutes of episode 2. So for most of that time, he is in a mask and not saying much.
I
But
am
I've enjoyed
also
what his character
I'm
has
also
done.
basing my opinion on episode 1 where I find him to be very blank faced. But if you've seen more and you think he's good, then I'm willing to trust your opinion until I see for
I
myself.
think he is more than adequate for this particular role. It doesn't really require a lot of heavy lifting. He needs to be pretty and he needs to have expressive eyes, which he does.
He does.
He wears his mask like 90% of the time. So the eyes part is very important.
And he just needs to look a bit like a Bajara for most of the time, which he also does.
Yeah,
See,
that's true.
that's exactly it. I like dramas because of vibes so
Yeah.
many times. And this drama has like the anxious, sad boy juxtaposed against like this confident girl who's just like really clever. Come on, that's the vibe I love.
Speaking of like Kim So-yeon, I have to say that while I think she's a great actor, one, I do not feel that she's aged up. Like she can, it's still difficult to look at her and think, oh, she's 24. Like I look at her and I think she's 18 or less.
Yeah. No,
like she
that's true.
hasn't got that mature vibe yet.
I actually, I haven't seen her in a lot of adult roles. Mostly I know her from her child roles. And the few things that I have seen her where she's playing an adult, I feel like I haven't really been impressed. Like I don't know that she's made the transition to an adult actor that successfully. But here I actually did find her interesting and I think she's doing a good job. And she has, I think for the first time in her adult roles, I'm actually seeing that like main character gravitas. And so I think her character, so, you know, like, I mean, we very briefly mentioned the premise, but she's like this kind of mysterious person who like hires out her lie detecting ability. She's called the liar hunter.
She's a human lie detector.
I love that she's kind of figured out that this inborn ability that she was just born with, like nobody's going to buy that, so that she has to like pretend to have like a shamanistic deity attached to her so that people will actually take her seriously, which is hilarious.
Which is more believable.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And like, I don't know, but it works because, you know, like people are, for
It
whatever
does.
reason,
You're
people are
tapping
willing
into-
you're tapping into this pre-existing belief system, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's smart writing when you have these things figured out. And also, like you said, Anissa, it feels like she has grown up enough that she can carry a main lead role. But also, I was thinking, because I think Sarah had pointed this out about her characters before, she kept getting given main lead roles with like romance angles opposite much older actors for some reason.
Yeah.
And I think she is close enough to Hwang Min-yoon's age
they're only
that,
a few years apart. Yeah.
they have like a very natural dynamic.
And also, Hwang Min-yoon has that youth vibe as well. So both of them, they do seem well matched in that way. But both of them seem younger than they are.
Absolutely,
that's
they
not,
do. They
like-
look younger than they are. But my point is, like, in their general demeanor and how they carry themselves, like, she does seem like somebody who has had a lot of dealings with a lot of people. She's faced a lot of lies. She is a cynical person, but she also, you know, like, there are a couple of scenes in future episodes that you guys haven't watched where they kind of show her showing trust in people that otherwise, like in shady situations where most of us would be wary, because she knows instantly if they are telling the truth. So she comes across as a really straightforward, trusting person to everybody else, but she isn't. She is really deeply cynical, but because she can hear the truth, she has the advantage of being able to trust people that most of us would be wary of. And she can carry this thing off, like where she is perceived as being like this young, optimistic person, but who she actually is like this sad, wary, kind of hurt person. Yeah.
So I wanted to actually, the reason I brought up my discussion of her was also not just because I wanted to talk about her, but also to talk about like why his character is not working as well for me. I think it's not just the acting, although I do find him a little bit blank-faced. Sorry. But I think it's also that I just don't find his character very interesting. Like, he's this genius composer. And like, how we know that he's a genius. Not only do Korean people think he's a genius, he's telling white people what to do. So now we really know that he's a genius, right? Like, that's the ultimate. I was just rolling my eyes so hard at that scene where he's like Zoom conducting for like a European orchestra. I was like, okay, drama. I just don't really. He clearly has some trauma. I don't care about this boy's trauma. I just want a drama about her. So I'm sorry.
He does seem like a character from another drama, right? Like, why are you?
At least in episode 1, I'm just like, bro, like, I don't really care. Give me more of Kim So-hyun and her like very fascinating business, which like her cafe, the Tarot cafe, it's really giving Cafe Minamdang vibes. Did anyone else
I
feel
got that? But not in a good. Like, I don't want those vibes because that drama kind of went.
Yeah,
funny.
hopefully only an aesthetic and nothing else.
Yeah,
but
the other thing is we haven't talked about the drama we're going to talk about next yet, but like literally I watched the episode of My Lovely Liar back to back with an episode of Touch Behind Your Behind Your Touch, and I feel like Kim So-yeon's character needs to be in the same drama as Lee Min-gi. That is the drama I feel like I'm watching with that back to back thing, but like we'll get there.
But like they need to be I don't know, families or just not romantically
Not
involved,
romantically,
because-
no. I don't think I would enjoy it
Yeah.
romantically, but like as a kind of
Yeah,
detective
absolutely.
pair.
As a supernatural aid to that detective, right?
Yeah.
Instead of the
Yeah, sure.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. Paroma, did you have something else to say about My Lovely Liar?
Only when you were talking about the scene where he was conducting this European team, and he's like, "Did he change anything in the guide?" And they're like, "No, we didn't." And they're listening. The whole thing is being treated like this is such serious music. This is amazing music, and they're playing this really generic hip hop track. Something you get in like these really cheap licensing sites.
My sister is like really into like classical music YouTube, and she was like so salty. She was like, "What is?" She was laughing at it so much.
Well, if we're going to talk about this, then I also have a bone to bring to the table.
Okay, bring your bones. Pick them.
Okay, so my bone is, as a former one-time football fanatic in a nation of football fanatics, so they made Kim So-yeon's character like
A Manchester
a
fan.
Man United fan. I'm sorry, not Manchester, Paroma. There's two teams in
Sorry.
Manchester.
So sorry.
And they, yeah, if you know, you know.
I don't know.
So, and then, so on the one hand, I was like, where are Man United, like, of all teams, as a former Man United fan, which I probably don't want to disclose, but, like, here we are. But, you know, when she was watching the World Cup, okay. The fact that I lost my mind over this scene, like, that is the most unrealistic thing. She turned it off not only before the match was over, but like the first half was over. No football fan would do that. Like, excuse me, have you ever watched football? It's not over until it's over. Like, literally.
Well, I'm not even a football fan / soccer fan, and I know that was weird. Yeah. Also, I think Man U is really popular in Korea because of what's his name?
Yeah, we know why, because they're a
Yeah.
huge team.
But
Yeah.
also Park Ji-sung used to be.
Oh,
Didn't he
that's
used to be on
true.
Man U? So like it, and he was kind of the first like really big Korean player to be in one of these European like teams. So like I think that caused a lot of fandom in Korea
Yeah.
for that team in particular.
I did laugh my head off at the Son Heung-min Totoro.
That was really funny. That
Like,
was
as soon as she
legitimately
said
so
Son
funny.
Heung-min, I was like, Totoro.
That was great. I enjoyed that too.
That was good. That was really good.
In general, like after watching one episode, I am going to continue watching this. It's very interesting.
I'm
Love
into
Kim
it.
So-yeon's character. The premise is very interesting. Like I was kind of rolling my eyes at the premise because, you know, it kind of, when they give these summaries, it kind of overplays the she's one thing and he's the total opposite thing. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay. But it actually isn't that overwrought.
No,
it's actually quite
not.
interesting.
It's not. So I forget where episode 1 ends. Have they become neighbors yet?
No.
Okay, so it's kind of going in that direction. They end up living in the same building.
I've just got there. It's 10 minutes into episode 2.
Okay, so the end of episode 1 is basically when like the whole neighborhood chases him down, and she's like,
Yeah, and
"Stop!
they're
He's
about
telling
to
the
unmask
truth."
him.
Yeah, and then he suddenly remembers the face of a person that he saw once 5 years ago, like you do.
I don't think it was the face. It was what she said.
Okay,
That's what
Like, if
put
I
him
said
back.
it, it is.
But don't give the drama too much credit. The drama does like bring back why does she not remember my face thing. at one
Well, I mean,
point
you had a
because-
mask on. Why would she remember your face when she can't see your face?
I will not give you for more context because then it becomes spoiler.
okay. Like there are definitely some like portions of this that are you just have to kind of suspend disbelief, but it's not to the point where it's like taking me out. You know,
No,
it is
and
actually
also-
well written in like the things that matter. I feel.
That's really true. But also the thing that really keeps me in, the romance is a part of it. These two have chemistry, and the more episodes you watch, what is it at now, right now? Like episode 6?
I think-
6, I think.
Right. I've watched episode 4, And just in the first 4 episodes, you can see these two have like great chemistry. And also, just for people who like numbers, Vicky just released that this drama is topping their internal charts in 127 countries.
Wow.
And that is a bit of a big thing.
That is a big thing.
It seems to have really good word of mouth, which I feel like is something that you can't replace.
You can't. The thing that is most impressing me about this story currently, though, I have my complaints, but those complaints are tied to spoilers, which I can't do in this one. So come back, on a different episode for that.
Yeah.
But the thing that I'm really enjoying is how well thought out Kim So-hyun's magical powers are. Like her lie detection powers, they are meticulous about how they are showing her sensing lies. And also her backstory. So she has a difficult relationship with one of her parents. She could tell lies from when she was very young. So she accidentally told the truth when she was a baby, and that situation was kind of heartbreaking because she's carried the guilt of like quote unquote hurting that parent, and that parent has been abusing that guilt for decades. So it's a really complex relationship, but it's kind of interesting that the drama doesn't do it too heavy-handedly. They are very light touches, but it's nice because they have thought out the many ramifications of having such a power, how that would affect different dynamics and different relationships. So that's been a lot of fun to watch.
You know, I was thinking actually with this that she reminds me a lot of like Sua in I Hear Your Voice.
Yeah.
Lee Jung-suk's character. But also I was thinking of that drama because, you know, when we were talking about how she comes across as a very jaded and like tough character, that like we're not unused to seeing her play those characters. She actually specializes, I think, especially in her child roles or her younger roles. She specialized in playing these emotionally complicated, layered and difficult characters. So that's really like one of her strengths. And I just want to also clarify that I didn't mean that she's not that kind of actor, just that her face belies her experience. Like she looks very young and she often sounds young, even though she's very good at pulling off these tough roles. But it's difficult to think of her as older, as old as she is, because I always think she's younger than she is. But yeah, I think there's a lot of parallels between her character and, you know, do you remember like in the opening episode of I Hear Your Voice when Lee Jung-suk goes into that, you know, the classroom and it's full of, or wherever it was, and it's full of all of these, like the clamor of other people's thoughts. And then you have like Kim Se-yeon who has that same, it's a very similar kind of scene where and I didn't think of it until they'd shown the scene. Oh, of course, when she goes into a physical space full of people talking, that's going to like set her lie detector off in a way that's very noisy inside her head, which I like the sort of the sensory aspect of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like the overload, but...
No, but and like
it's
on
shown
that
very
note,
well.
like that's just a small example of how the writing is not hitting us over the head with this. Like you said, Paroma, I mean, I've only seen one episode, but you know, like you see the scene right before that with her coworker where her coworker's like, oh, there's this meeting. You don't have to go. And she's like, no, I'll go, you know. And you can tell that she doesn't want to go, but they don't come out and say, oh, it's going to be so uncomfortable for you because all these people are going to be lying. Because like, why would they wouldn't say that to each other in real life.
Yeah.
Instead,
Right.
the drama just trusts you that you're like willing to stick around and find out why she doesn't like it. And then 5 minutes later, you find out. And it's a much smarter and like more enjoyable to watch way of
It makes you feel
writing
smart
it.
too.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, that's why. Okay. Now I've like unlocked a level on the drama.
Yeah, so
I'm smart.
I'm glad
Let's
to hear
keep
that it
going.
continues and like I'm excited to watch more. Shall we move
It
on to
does.
the next drama?
Oh, before we move on to the next drama, I just want to quickly say, because it just it was a bug in my mind. I couldn't figure out who this person was, where I had seen them before, but Yoon Jeon, who plays Hwan Min-yoon's boss / friend, like the CEO of the company, he seems so familiar. I'm like, I've seen this guy somewhere. Tomorrow. He was in
he's
tomorrow.
that guy, the one who always gets off work at exactly like 5 o'clock or whatever.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love
I literally
seeing him
clicked
again.
on it at that moment. And I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. No wonder he was familiar.
Right? It just,
I also had like that niggling, oh, who is he? Who is he? I've seen him before. And then as soon as I saw it, I was like, I know who he was.
So he's the CEO of the company where Hong Min-yoon's character, Kim Do-ha, he does his composing. And the artist he composes for is Shaon, who is, Shaon. The artist is Shaon. And he only composes for her. And initially, for a brief second, I was like, is Yoon Ji-yeon's character going to be that scummy CEO who's like hitting on this very young singer? I don't. Thankfully, that doesn't seem to be the case. He's a good friend to Kim Do-ha. I don't know where the story's gonna go, but I'm just glad they steered away from that. I was so scared it was going to go there, but yeah.
Okay, I've just realized that Shaon is played by Yoona of Shooting Stars. Do you remember that character?
Yeah, but I
The
did not
actress?
recognize her.
Nice.
Nice.
No, me neither.
Okay. All right, we really need to move on to
still
the
don't
next
recognize
drama.
Okay, let's move
Okay.
on.
이름,
홍예분이요.
직업.
수의사. 소돼지판입니다.
안녕하십니까? 경찰대 우등무죄로 문장렬입니다.
사람 사는데 강력 사건 없는 건 못 봤습니다.
근데 저 두 분이 혹시 연인 사이인가요?
저 얼굴 봐요. 무슨 말도.
So the next drama we wanted to talk about, which I think all of us watched episode 1. I think episode 2 like literally came out this morning. So that is Behind Your Touch.
Touch Your Behind.
Which we've been calling Touch Your Behind. Yes, because why would you call it anything else? So just to
I think
give
they
you
made a mistake when they were releasing the title. They meant it to be Touch Your Behind.
most likely, perhaps a miscommunication in the promo materials.
Let's give them credit, guys. Come on, they came up with such a great name and made it made the intent so clear. They were like, just look at it in a mirror.
I also just realized, if you look at their posters, you know the Korean title is Hiphage?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But they've got the hyung, the H letter, as a butt shape.
Oh my god, you're right.
I did not notice that. Okay, so quick
Why is this funny and why are we all
quick
6 years old?
synopsis. So basically, this is a story about a veterinarian in a rural area who gains the power to find out the past of a human or an animal when she touches their butts.
She is psychometric.
Yeah, she is psychometric with butts. And a police detective who has, for some reason, been demoted. I mean, he used to be in Seoul and now he's in this like little town. And he wants to like get back within a month to Seoul. So he's looking for some crime to arrest because he's like such a great cop. He's like, we need more crime to happen so I can arrest
He's like,
lots
when
of
is
people.
the redevelopment happening in this town so I can get the crime rates up?
Right. He's in the violent crime unit and he wants more violent crime to happen because it'll be good for his career. Only the beginning of how horrible a person he is, but we'll get into that. Heroine is played by Han Ji-min and the detective is played by Lee Min-ki. Okay. So
I hear your censure, Anissa.
I have a
but
lot of
I
opinions
just-
about this drama, but you guys go ahead first. You tell me what you thought of episode 1.
We hear you. We do. But
I feel like Anissa should go first.
Yeah. Go first.
Okay,
Get it out.
okay, I'll go first. So I had like initially heard about this pairing, like actor pairing, and I was like really excited because I love these two. And I wanted to see them again. And I was also like, maybe a better role, like a happier role for Lee Min-ki after his last drama, which was much more serious, maybe funny, some comedy. Always love him in some comedy. And then I read the premise was it yesterday? It was yesterday. So our friend Yuna, who's been on the show before, was like telling us to watch this because it's full of dog butts. And she was like, it's so funny and also so like emotional. And I was like, okay, I'll watch it. And then I looked at the premise and I was like, what? And then I was like, okay, I'm hoping that this team is not using this premise as an excuse to make this female lead do sexual harassment. But I was wrong. It is exactly that. I don't know why you would do this. Okay, like it's so bad for so many reasons. I also really dislike when they make the woman in a drama, like, for some reason, for plot reasons, like start to do like bad behavior that in real life only men ever do. And this feels very gross to me. On top of that, like, I don't like Iminki's character at all. Like, I know we were like, oh, Detective Iminki, always a good thing. But he's like so harsh. He's like one of those like cops that just like wants to arrest people. He wants more crime to happen. Also, okay, yes, in their first interaction, oh no, sorry, that was their second interaction. The first interaction was when she's like on the back of a runaway cow. That was actually funny.
That was the second interaction.
Oh, that was the second. Okay,
Wait, what was the first?
when she gives him a flyer when he gets off the bus.
Ah, yeah.
And like his third interaction is like when she's groping someone on the bus. So like clearly he has a right to have a bad opinion of her. But okay, I'm going to spoil something that happens at the end of the episode. But like she touches his butt because he's about to fall down the stairs. And of course, obviously, the place you would put your hands to support someone when they're falling down the stairs is their bum. Like, why would you try something that is like more helpful? Who knows? Anyway, so then he like turns around and like judo flips her onto this hard ground. That's police brutality, my dude.
That is actually.
Okay.
I have to say, halfway through the episode, it dawned on me that this was a really awful incarnation of her power. Like, why butts? There's no way for her to use this power without it being
I feel like it could have been really
offensive.
funny if they had chosen like literally any other body part.
Yeah.
And it could have been something that's still like very personal, like someone's head. You don't go around touching people's heads. That is something you only allow people who are close to you to do, but you're not going to be mistaken as a pervert and arrested. And then you're not also going to be like, oh, well, in order to help people, I must continue to grope people's behinds. Like, you never, like, what?
Yeah, like, there's no way to make that okay.
No,
which
exactly.
is
So I
kind
don't
of
know what they're
a
planning to do
problem.
for the next
Yeah.
16 episodes. The last thing I will say is, like, I didn't find it funny very often. It was very rarely funny to me. So I'm not on board for this. It's not for me.
I have to say, I don't disagree with you on a lot of it. Like, I think that the comedy tone is also a bit too much for me. Like, I think the premise can only work if it's a comedy, but I don't think there's room for the drama to become serious with the way that Han Ji-min's power is meant to work out. Like, this isn't, for example, in a drama like He's Psychometric, where that's just skin to skin contact. And that's something that you can work with and that can become serious. But when it's a butt, it just can't. There's no way to turn this drama into, like, you can't give it gravitas while that's the basic fundamental premise.
But there's so much tonal whiplash, right? Because the first time you meet her, her mother just died and she's been sent to like live with his grandfather who basically like ignores her.
The grandfather.
The grandfather
I hate that
is so
much.
hateful and
it
like
makes me so angry. Like, I feel super triggered by it.
I was just gonna say I also feel extremely triggered.
Yeah.
Which is another
Like,
reason
this
I
is
will
so
be continuing
Asian,
to watch
right?
this.
It's just such a thing.
Yep.
Like, it took me years. Like, was it somebody who was, like, one of my friends was saying to me a few years ago at this point, but, like, that was something that she experienced from her family members. And it wasn't until she got married that her husband pointed out to her, you know, this isn't normal. And her husband is, like, not Asian. So, like, it wasn't until that moment that she had that realization that this thing is such an awful, dysfunctional, toxic family behavior that is genuinely traumatizing. Like, it changes a human being very fundamentally.
I have personally been through that myself, so I can attest to that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really awful. And it's very destructive, especially for a child. And yet I think it's quite common in, certainly in Asian societies, I think it's very common to have this, like, stony silence from an elder like a father or a grandfather or an uncle or a mother. I don't know. Like, I think men do it a lot more. Like, it's weaponized silence. And it can erase a person's existence. Like, your sense of your existence disappears when people are ignoring you in that like solid brick wall kind of way.
Yeah.
It's really awful.
Yeah, and like totally 100% agree. It was horrible, but then like you have that, and that is actually portrayed well. I mean, it's horrible to watch, but it's portrayed pretty realistically. And then you have like all this other stuff going on, which is like so ridiculous. I don't know what to make of it.
I didn't enjoy the Hanjimin parts, I'm sorry to say. Like, the last thing I remember seeing her in is probably like Rooftop Prince.
That's so funny that you say that, because my sister was watching with me and she's like, is she the actress from the tracksuit drama? And I was like, wait. She was like, the one with the tracksuits and the time travel. I was like, how did you even remember that? She's like, I remember her from I think that's the last time she saw her as well.
Yeah.
I really love her now, because her performance in, oh my gosh.
Blues.
No, before Our
One
Blues.
Spring Night?
She was good. She was really good in Our Blues too, but I turned around on her in that drama that she did with Ji-sung.
Familiar Wife.
Familiar
Yeah,
Wife.
yeah,
I kept thinking Go Back Couple, and I was like, that's not the, that's not
that
the title,
one.
but it was like
Yeah.
stuck in my brain. Yeah. So she was amazing in Familiar Wife. So I think she's a great actress, but the writing is not doing her any favors. She's also giving like Hwang Jung-um at a particular period of her
oh my
career
God, you're right.
with the haircut and the clothes, and then like the over-the-top acting.
Yeah, literally the whole time I was like, this is a very Hwang Jung-um. Yes, that's what I thought as well. Like, exactly in those words.
So I think Paroma has been waiting to give her
Sorry.
opinion. Paroma.
Okay, so can't think of a single good thing about the drama now.
Well, can I just say one more thing while you think then? You know, after Yuna mentioned it, I went and looked it up again. I was like, Imingi, as a detective, I'm in. And because the last time I saw him was as a detective. So I thought you can't go wrong with that. And I have to say, I didn't hate his character in this. I just, like, he's a character. This is, the point is that he's this awful person, and then that's funny.
I mean,
And it kind of is.
I think that if the rest of the drama had been well executed and I had enjoyed all of that, then I would have been like, okay, he's going to have a character arc. And he starts out awful, and he's going to become better. And he probably will. I mean, that's always what happens when like a big city person goes to a small town and acts all condescending and makes all these assumptions about them. And then after 16 episodes, they've moved there permanently. They've fallen in love with a local. They've learned to appreciate small town life, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But like, I'm like on top of everything else with him being like that. I'm just like, nope.
Yeah, I do feel like this isn't the Imingi detective drama that I want it to be, for sure. Because, you know, it's not, what was the other one called?
Beyond, no.
It's not The Lies Within.
The Lies Within.
That was, that's the detective.
Well, that
Imingi
was
I wanna see
focused
again.
on the murder mystery. This is focused on the butts. So,
yeah,
you know.
I think this may turn out to be like one of those choices that was not the best. But then again, is it like, what are its ratings like? Maybe it's popular domestically. Because, you know, that kind of humor works for a lot of people.
I don't know, actually. I think the reviews have mostly been mixed. This is not the kind of drama that does like really well right off the bat. So we'll have to watch and see what happens like as the weeks progress, if the storylines become better. The things that you guys pointed out are all valid. Like, no excuses for any of those things. The way I've been looking at like the whole butt touching premise is for majority of the first episode, of course, she had been, it was mostly focused on, oh look, she touches the butt of a chicken and can see a scene of domestic abuse happening in front of the chicken, who's just focused on not being fallen on by a large human as he, you know, goes timber. And so it's the same category of humor as all poop jokes. So in my head, that's because I've just watched the first episode. So I have allowed them a little bit of rope, and let's see where they go with it. I agree, I did not like the bus interaction. And that was just, I mean, the moment they were on the bus, I pretty much knew this was where it was gonna go. And that's always bad storytelling, like where the audience has seen something similar or knows that this is how the puzzle pieces are likely to fall together, and we've had an icky reaction to it every single time, and you give us that's just not
Right. You're just watching it, the beginning of the scene, and you're just saying, no, 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 no. The whole scene. Like, that. What
Yeah,
other, you just have this
exactly.
feeling of dread and disgust. Like, why do you want to have that for the main character that you want people to root for? The other thing I will say,
pretty much.
we were saying earlier that they could have done it like a person's head or something. But the thing is, like, if they want, and I mean, we know from the premise that where this is going eventually, I mean, we didn't mention this, but it's in the synopsis that, like, eventually she's going to become Iminki's, like, psychometric helper for, like, you know, solving mysteries. She is the vet. They could have still kept the power just to animals, and it would have helped. Because you already saw how that might have helped when she touched the chicken butt and she saw this person, you know, getting hurt. Like, animals see a lot of things that people do around them, knowing that the animals can never tell anyone. So animals know a lot of secrets. So she could have just, I mean, if they wanted to keep the humorous part, because I think it is humorous, like touching an animal's butt and seeing its past, like, because it's an animal's butt and you're not like abusing the animal in any way. They're just cute and you're petting their butt, like whatever. You end up touching their butts when you're like holding them and picking them up. And like as a vet, she'd probably touch it, you know, like just when she's treating them. Like it's
Touches
not
lots of butts.
Yeah, it's already a lot of butts for her to be touching. Like, there's a lot of available butts.
That
my
is
fluffy dog
honestly
butt.
what I signed up for. I just wanted her to touch a lot of fluffy butts.
Exactly. That part is fine. It's cute. Like, and also it's really cute. I mean, maybe we're biased because we love animals, but I thought it was really cute to see like the world from an animal's view and her pet's view of her, like being all loving towards them and like waiting for her to come home. And, you know, also like animals live a life that humans don't get to see. Like all of that would have been enough. And it also would have like made her a better assistant to the police if she's not constantly committing crimes. Like what? You know, like it could have
Like
worked fine.
You didn't think this one through. This is surprising also because this writer is also the writer of like, you know, The Light in Your Eyes, all these like rich, complex, dark dramas.
Really well critically acclaimed.
Very well written ones.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. Is this the drama where the writer's on holiday or are we meant to expect the drama to sort of get better? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Literally one episode is out. Well,
I'm
2
hoping
episodes.
it gets better. I mean, the director directed My Liberation Notes. I mean, it just this is a really promising pairing, but like
I feel like maybe Iminki signed on because of the director and maybe he's having regrets. I don't know.
Also, this writer, I just checked, and the screenwriter Inam Yu wrote Duty After School, which I watched the first part, and it's dark, but it's really well written. So I don't know. I mean, I'm still hoping that the story. It's not that I'm still hoping. I entered this recording full of hope that this can only go up. So
I guess the other thing is that just because people have written a certain way or worked a certain way so far doesn't mean that they can't branch into different types of writing. But the butt thing is really that's not
and I mean, this is take this with a grain of salt because this was reported by All K-pop, and we know they're not like the most ethical in terms of their journalistic standards. But I did see an article. I mean, I haven't looked into this deeply, but I did see an article with them like that saying that there was backlash from Korean netizens, even from the trailer, because of her like basically like the trailer I guess shows her touching men's butts without their consent, and people are like, why are you doing this? Like, this is really messed up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I guess we'll see now that the drama is out whether people will continue to have a problem with that and what the ratings look like and whether people will care in terms of the domestic audience.
I don't think the problem with a premise such as butt touching psychic powers is the butt touching part, but how the story frames such an action. So if you're framing it as, well, it's a woman, so she's harmless and therefore it's okay, then you have the dog by the wrong end.
May say.
I think I don't know if this is a quote from the drama or from the trailer, but basically she says like, my hand is innocent. And it's like, oh, like, so because we as viewers know that her intentions are pure, it's suddenly okay. But intention is something that you can never know, you know? And that's what people always say when they're arrested for being perverts and groping people. When these like bus gropers and stuff are caught, they're always like, "Oh, I didn't mean anything bad by it. I was innocent. I didn't do anything. My hand just went on its own.
It was crowded.
It was crowded." Yeah. So like, but then so she's
like the real life seriousness of it kind of.
And I mean, they show a little bit of this.
It's not a joking.
Yeah, and they show a little bit of this in the interrogation scene where he like he arrests her and he takes her to the police station, and she's like saying all this stuff that like a typical groper would say, and it's supposed to be funny,
but it's not.
But it's not. It's just gross. Yeah. It's just gross.
So. It is, and at which point you might be like, so why are you still optimistic? It's because I really like Kancham and I really like Ivanki, and I'm also hoping that they get this joke out of their system and move on. I know it's unlikely, but
I don't know how they can when they've sort of baked it into the premise. It's just
by focusing on the animals and not the humans. That's what I'm hoping.
I mean, like, but then like why even have the human part? Is my question.
Like, listen, this is not the other drama. This is not My Lovely Liar where they've actually thought through the psychic powers. Though. And Saya knows this already. There is a moment in My Lovely Liar, a couple of episodes in, I won't spoil exactly which moment, where they again do exactly the same thing, where a woman does to a man what men typically do to women. Either way, it's horrible. It's a violation, and it's kind of awful, and there is an apology, but it isn't it isn't like properly addressed, and I'll talk about that like properly whenever we do a spoiler discussion.
I feel like sometimes these lapses come from where the conversation is like domestic.
I don't think it's a lapse. I think it's deliberately done. They know that it's seen as problematic when men do it, but because Korean writing, Korean discourse has such a patriarchal gaze on things, they think they can get away with cracking the same joke but flipping the gender, and therefore they're like, well, this is not problematic. Men aren't doing it. It's a woman doing it. She's harmless. Men never get sexually abused. So, yeah, the patriarchal structure never moves. That is still in place. Sorry, I have to interrupt.
What I was trying to say was that when K-dramas try to address these like quite delicate and nuanced topics of consent and privacy and what is appropriate and inappropriate, I feel like as an international viewer because we're viewing it from our own situations where perhaps we're in a more we've had longer to talk about these things, so we've come a little further in the conversation, whereas I think, for example, in Korea they're still working on figuring a lot of that stuff out, and this is why you have so much women even trying to get, and for example, if they're groped on the bus, which happens a lot, like even having that acknowledged as a crime, these are things that they're still working on. I mean, it's things we're still working on, like upskirting was only like made a criminal offense very recently in like the UK or whatever. But yeah, sometimes I feel like it's helpful to like for me to situate the fact that where they are in the discussion, they're still like they will go to a point and then you're like, oh, you got so far, and then what happened? Then it went completely sideways. But maybe that's because like as a society, they haven't got to the end of that discussion yet. Not that there is necessarily an end, but like. I don't know. Maybe I'm saying this wrong.
No, I mean, I understand what you're trying to say. Yeah.
The societal discourse definitely is advanced in some spaces more than others. Like sitting in India, I cannot critique Korean societal discourse at all, given where ours is right now. Actually, pretty similar spaces in some ways. Korea can't really say much about our societal discourse either, given where they are right now. Yeah. But individuals, though, in our countries, we have been part of this discourse, just like I have been, because I larger world, internet, friends in other countries.
I think also
And-
like just because the mainstream hasn't gotten to a certain point, that doesn't mean that groups within the society haven't maybe been saying something for like 30 years. It's just that nobody has listened to them and they haven't been given the
Correct.
space to like influence mainstream culture and the legal system. And, all of that takes a really long time. And in South Korea, feminism is such a dirty word. And it has such strong backlash that, but that's not to, and I know you weren't saying this, Saya, but just to clarify, like, that's not to say that people in that society haven't been talking about this and having those conversations, but it doesn't necessarily mean that those haven't like percolated up to a place where they've been able to like change things.
It does differ from drama to drama as well, because, K-dramas are not a monolith either. So, like, that's why you can have those dramas that are very, very nuanced, and you can,
like the society, right? People are having different conversations in different spaces, and I think probably different productions have more or less room for nuanced depictions of women and relationships and men, and others probably don't have that much space, depending on like who's making it, who's paying for it, what kind of story they're interested in telling, all of that stuff.
And it remains to be seen where this drama goes, I guess.
Yeah.
We're only one episode in.
Yeah, exactly. So
But the butts!
Okay, Paroma, so your
Leave it
homework,
there.
since you're planning to watch this, is to report back to us and tell us if it gets better.
반점 씨 혹시 우리 어디서 본 적 있나요?
네. 혹시 전생을 믿으세요?
넌 전생을 믿어? 난 믿어. 왜냐하면
난 전생을 기억하거든.
Okay, so next, just to let you know, Saya had to step out for a bit, but she's going to be back for the final drama that we talk about in this episode. But in the meantime, Paroma, I really wanted to talk to you about See You in My 19th Life because I know you just finished it. I am like in the beginning of episode 7 and like really struggling to continue. So, and I know that we were very positive about it in the beginning. I'd only seen like 2 episodes at that time. And I'm regretting a lot of the things I said, or like I've changed my mind. Let's just put it that way. So what are your like sort of overall thoughts? Or do you want me to say what I think and then give your overall thoughts? What do you think?
Okay, so I'll briefly tell you where my mind was at when we last spoke about this. I was quite happy with how the webtoon was being adapted. I had read the entire webtoon, I had loved it, and I really wanted them to be faithful to the webtoon because it had this quirky, sort of unknowable vibe around the main female character, who's Banjium, who's played by Shine-san here. That's hard to recreate unless the energy of the webtoon is pretty low. Like, it's super chill. Conflicts are these slow-moving tectonic forces rather than like an explosion here or like something falling off a building. It's like, it's not urgent at all. And that's the kind of mood that I initially thought See You in My 19th Life was going for in its drama adaptation, which I was enjoying. Around the same time as where you are right now, after about the first 6 episodes, I found the drama was clearly revealing some stuff that they wanted to keep for the climax of the story. And the webtoon had not had those things as its climax. So I started feeling negatively towards this adaptation choice. That's like just the part of my brain that was clocking the differences and the similarities, which it was to a certain extent. But also the fact that I think I spoke about this last time to you, but how I felt like Shinhei-san wasn't being allowed to like be her fully expressive self, to the point where Yoon-cheon, who's a splendid actress, ended up having like the most expressive moments. But that's it. Like, she didn't have enough scenes to like make up for how lacking in emotional punch the rest of the performances were, and that was entirely due to the script and how these characters were made to react to each other and speak. And I I hate saying this, but it turns out that An Bo-yeon was actually a really bad choice for Moon So-ha.
Let's talk about An Bo-hyun for a second, shall we? Because I feel like his character is kind of the root of all of my problems with this drama. So, I mean, obviously I didn't see the webtoon, so I don't know how this differs from the webtoon. Maybe we can get into that a little later if you're like, do you want to do spoilers?
Let's keep that option for a little later. But right now we are in the non-spoiler part. If we do spoilers, we will give you ample warning. And
Yes.
plus, it's going to be in the time codes.
Yeah. So without going into any spoilers, even for what I've seen, which is like 6 episodes in like 10 minutes or something, I really think that this setup of, you know, and I mean, everyone knows the premise, right? So that's not a spoiler of like, she loved him in a previous life. She died kind of in front of him. Now she's back, but because she had to be reincarnated in order to reunite with him, she's much younger than he is, but she found her way back to him, and they're now together, like they're in each other's orbit again because of her efforts. And like, I just don't buy that this guy is someone that she would like be this attached to the point that she would come back in her next life and seek him out and like make her whole life revolve around making him happy. I just don't understand. Like, as a kid, he was kind of boring and he was just a brat. Like, what was there? I don't really understand their childhood connection. Like, fine, there were playmates that they knew each other briefly. Like, okay, I don't really care. And then, like, also, why is this 35-year-old man still hung up on this, like, 13-year-old girl that he knew 26 years ago? And he's still, okay, maybe you still have some trauma left over from the accident. But, like, why is he still so obsessed with this young girl that he knew briefly for a short amount of... I don't really understand their connection. And I think, like, I agree with you. An Bo-hyun, as much as I have loved him in the past, he really doesn't have the talent to make this, like, blank slate of a character interesting, which, like, is a really hard job to do, right? But you need an actor who's able to like have the micro expressions to be able to show that like he's feeling something deeply on the inside. Obviously, the writing is not helping him because he's written to be a very boring and flat character as well. There's nothing interesting about him. He's just a body in a suit that is like a placeholder for all of her feelings about like what she lost, I guess. I don't know. It's just not working for me at all. And he's not working for me in this character. I don't care about him. I don't have any feelings towards him. Whenever he comes on screen, I'm bored. And like, I'm so sad to be saying that about An Bo-hyun because y'all know how much I like him. He's every single role I've seen him in, whether it was like a bit part or a major role, I loved him. Not only did I love him, I was like evangelizing for him. And now I'm just like, no, An Bo-hyun. And I'm like so disappointed because I was really excited for this pairing. But also like the way she acts towards him is so mystifying. Like, she's kind of like a stalker. She's kind of just a weirdo. Like, I don't understand why he likes her. I don't know. It's just there are so many reasons that their romance doesn't work for me. Like, the things that I like about the show is her relationship with her sister. It's my favorite thing. And this is like her sister from a previous life. Those interactions, the feelings that she has towards her mother from her previous life. There's a really powerful scene about that. That stuff works really well for me. Oh, her niece from another life. Love all of that stuff. But everything else, I don't know. It's like slow and boring and also infuriating at the same time. And I'm just so like over it. And I guess I want to ask you, like, is it worth finishing the drama, Paroma? Nah, okay. Okay, thanks. You saved me 6 hours.
So sad.
That is really sad.
But if I tell you to even watch a couple of more episodes just for a sweet moment here and a nice scene there, you'll eventually reach a point where the unraveling starts to happen. And at that point, no matter where you stop, you're going to be disappointed because there's no way you can look away.
That's such a shame.
I thought this story had such great potential when adapted to screen because there are so many things you could do that you can't really do in a webtoon or that you can improve on, like once the source material, in the webtoon has been created. For instance, when they gave those in the initial episodes, they gave they sprinkled scenes from her, rich past lives. Like she's lived 18 lives before this, a lot of them in many grand roles, in many grand tragedies, many minor normal tragedies, and she's had lives.
Yeah.
Just the concept of it is so awe-inspiring. Like to have a single human mind and body remember memories of all of those lives, hundreds of years of lives. And with all of the social structures of each of the lives and all of the relationships she's made, and over time, the cynicism and the ennui that builds up in such a person, we can all imagine that. And so the life that we first met her in, where she's this 12-year-old kid, was the one where she didn't really, she had no expectations. She finally was born in a life that was comfortable. She was born to a rich family, to loving parents. And she was like, oh, okay, so finally I get to live the life of comfort. But she had no deep feelings at this point. And even as a child, as soon as she regained her memories of her past lives, she was too much of an adult. She'd seen everything. There was no thrill for her. So the premise of the story was that this little boy made her feel like a child again. She hadn't really felt like a child in a very long time. By that, I'm assuming even in her past life, she'd never had the opportunity to truly be a child. But Moon Soha allowed her to be a child, which is why her affection for this little boy was so great. The webtoon never really made it into a romantic affection, something that the drama did, and I wish dramas wouldn't do that.
The other thing is, like, I feel like the actress that they chose to play that previous version of her,
Naksoi?
Yeah.
Oh, the 12-year-old, Kim Shia.
Yeah, the one from the previous life, not her younger version in this life, who I think was incredible. But that actress who's playing Ju-won.
Yeah, Kim Shia.
That did not work for me. And I think like that was part of what I found unbelievable about him remembering her so fondly, is that like she barely made an impression as a person and as a character. And I wonder if part of that is, I don't know if they could get beyond the writing, but I wonder if part of that is like if they had picked an actress who was, and I mean, I always feel weird criticizing like a child actress performance. I don't really want to do that, but I'm just wondering if like they had chosen someone who was like a little bit more charismatic and who had like more of an impact as an actor, maybe it would have been a little bit more believable that he held on to this person for such a long time, even as an adult man. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. Just a thought, since you mentioned like that previous life that she had.
But the reason you have such a hard time believing that he would hold on to her memories for so long is also because they just wouldn't stop emphasizing how she was his first love when he was like, I don't know, a 9-year-old.
Right. It's so weird and unnecessary.
Very unnecessary, especially because there is sufficient reason for him to remember this girl who was kind to him when his mother was ill and was his only companion, took care of him. Like after his mother passed away, he had an estranged relationship with his father. She was the only one who was, comforting him. And then she died horribly in front of him. Like ample things to remember her by, but that's not what the drama was focusing on. The drama kept harping on how she was his first love. Yeah.
That, and also then because she was his quote unquote first love, there's a scene, okay, maybe this is a mild spoiler, but there's a scene where he's talking to her younger sister.
Choan.
Yeah, and Choan is basically like, you need to like move on. I know that like we deal with things differently, and I know that you're the one that's suffering the most from this. And I was like, what? What, drama writers? He is suffering more than her own family? Why would you put that line in her sister's mouth? I was so angry about that. I think what she meant was because he was in the accident, the trauma affected him. But like the way it was framed in that conversation was as if he was feeling the loss of this girl more than like her sister and her parents, which is so upsetting to me.
I agree with you. That line hit me wrong too. And then I rationalized it just like you. I was like, oh, so she meant that, but she was pretty much a toddler at that point, and he was in the crash. So the trauma is greater for him, where she's been able to slightly forget her sister by this time. But why would I have to think so many? Why would I have to?
Why do we have to?
Through?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's like jumping through hoops so as not to take the very obvious bad interpretation. So that was their childhood stuff. But like I think the space where I had most trouble was in the fact that Shin Hye-sun seemed not to have chemistry with An Bo-yeon, which seemed impossible to me. Oh, you know who would have been an excellent Moon So-ah? Who was the actor who was with her in Still 17?
Wonjin something. No, what's his name? Oh, his name was Woojin in the drama, but yeah, Yang Se-jung. Yeah, he hasn't really been in anything recently.
I think he would have done he had that chill vibe to begin with, like where he's in his 30s at this point, and he's been hurt by the world. Like initially, I was like, An Bo-yeon is doing it pretty well, but it's just that.
If anything, it gets worse as the drama progresses. Like his performance gets worse. I don't understand how you do that. I don't know.
I think it's just that he's not used to being this very passive character.
Yeah.
Because Moon So-ah's character is not the active one in the story.
No.
It's always been Ban Ji-yoon's character who's like the one who's acting on stuff. Even when Moon So-ah is investigating that accident that happened when he was a child, he's following breadcrumbs that are very obviously laid out. This is not like real detective work.
Yeah, and like a lot of the stuff that like he didn't know about the accident was so incredibly unbelievable to me. Like, come on. I know you know what I'm talking about, but I don't want to spoil it. But I think also like you're right. An Bo-yeon's previous acting outings have been a lot more active. In this role, you need someone more like Jo Sung-woo who can like express 10 things without even like saying a word. Or even I'm like surprised that I'm saying this, but Yoo Yeon-suk, who was most recently in The Interest of Love, he's actually really good at subtle acting with his face when he doesn't have a lot to say, which like I didn't expect that of him. I was very impressed.
Agreed.
Someone like that, unfortunately, I guess An Bo-yeon just he hasn't developed that yet, or he doesn't have it. And the writing doesn't do him any favors, to be honest.
But also the directing. See, there are so many things that I found just slightly off with the production of this thing. I was complaining about this
The music.
in the middle of the drama.
Sorry, this is the worst music direction I have ever seen in a drama in my life.
It was discordant. Like the sound design was just. It was like this music does not suit this mood. What are you doing?
Completely off. Like it would just completely ruin a scene that would otherwise have been okay. And then you have this totally discordant music that is like this like frenetic energy that completely kills any vibe that the drama had started to have. It was so bad. Oh my god.
This drama has one nice song that's played to death. That's it. Everything else, the sound design doesn't match the main theme song. Also, it's not even just the sound design. The editing was odd.
The editing is really weird. Yes.
Including certain finer things like the airbrushing they do on the faces of the main characters. I don't know if I've ranted about this before.
Oh, yes. And like, this is the first drama where I was like actively noticing it because it was right after our conversation. And I had also had the same conversation with my sister too, where she was like, yeah, they've been doing this for years. Did you never notice it? And then so this was the drama where I was noticing it. So I don't know if it was just like really obvious to me because I just found out.
Really badly done, and especially because they seem to do it excessively on Shin Hye-sun. Maybe because they were trying to make her look like much younger because she's supposed to be in her early 20s. She's 24 years old. She's allowed to have a couple of wrinkles. Come on. But they were like, oh my god, no, not a single pore should be visible. And her face was blurred to a stupid degree. There is this one scene where she's crying. You can see that tear tracks down her real skin while the blurring is happening around it.
God.
I was appalled. Okay, just Absolutely appalled. How did this ever?
You can clearly see where the like priorities of like where they're spending more time at the expense of what.
But the worst part was the cinematography was actually beautiful. Whoever was handling the
it
camera, gorgeous. Okay, including the shots they had of people whose skin weren't blurred, as in Chowon and, for instance, Ha-do-yeon. Their skins weren't blurred, and oh my god, Yoon-cheon, which is the actress Ha Yoon-kyung, the camera, when they held onto her face with the color correction, just like she looked so gorgeous with her pores visible. Like that's texture. It adds to just the beauty of a face.
We want a real person. That's how you relate to someone, is if they look and feel like a real person and not a robot with.
Even from a superficial point of view, I'm telling you, she looked prettier without the blurring on. How could you ruin Shin Hye-sun's face?
I don't know.
Anyway,
so upsetting.
That's just like the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the editing. The scenes were oddly put together. Some like scenes that would have made more of an impact came too early in the episode. And it just, even the way the writing was done. Now, mind you, this was, I would say it was a medium length webtoon. It wasn't too short, but it did, I think she took an entire year to write it. So they packed all of that stuff into 12 episodes. So there was ample that they just did not go over, which is fine. But there were moments that they could have put in the drama that would have had more of an impact. Instead, they cut those out, but kept really passive moments in.
It's surprising to me that you say that they cut so much, it's surprising that they cut so much stuff out, because the drama, okay, it was 12 episodes, but it wasn't paced like a 12-episode drama. It was so slow. I was having trouble, I was watching it on TV. And I was like, I need to watch this on my laptop, because at least then I can increase the speed on Netflix, which you can't do on your TV, because nothing was happening. It was so draggy. And I was like, and so now that you're saying there's a lot more that they could have put in, why not put that in? Your story is so boring. At least something would happen. And then you would be at least engaged in trying to find out what's going to happen next.
So something that I had really enjoyed in the webtoon and started enjoying a lot in the drama was Yoon Cho-yeon and Ha Do-yeon's relationship, right? The background secondary romance. They were so cute together, especially initially. And they had a real problem, as in both of them knew that they liked each other. But Ha Do-yeon, coming from, a working class background, he had been around Moon So-ah, who's his friend but also his boss, long enough that he knew that his social circle, as in Moon So-ah's social circle, perceived him as a bit of a leech. You're just hanging on to your rich friend. He didn't want to be part of that social circle.
And he knew if he got together with her, how he would be treated if he was in that relationship. Yeah.
And it's not like he could have just plucked her out of that social circle. He would have inevitably had to be at least somewhat a part of it. And it's a real world problem, okay? So that had a lot of potential that they could have gone into, especially in the drama. They just didn't. They were like, it can't happen. And then
it just happened.
The resolution was just, it just happened. Yeah. I'm just telling you, they had so many things that they could have done so much with, and then they didn't. And I was like, why did you bother to adapt this into a drama? Why? This is I'm reading a Wikipedia summary.
So are there any, we should probably start wrapping our conversation about this show up, but are there any things that you want to kind of give as your final thoughts? Do you want to go into spoilers, or are you okay?
I want to go into spoilers because I want to tell you guys this one thing that I found so hilarious in the webtoon, and I was so bummed out that they didn't go that way. Well, there were many things, but
okay, so let's do spoilers for the ending.
Spoilers.
Starting now.
And you can skip to the next section by going to the time codes below. So. Ha Do-yeon, who was secretary cum bestie to the male lead Moon So-ah, he was Ban Ji-yoon's twin sister in her past life.
What?
Yeah. No, but that's in the webtoon, which I love.
Sorry, in his past life, he was her twin sister?
In both of their past life, obviously.
So, yeah, okay. Okay, that's actually kind of great.
So Hadoyeon, the grumpy, slightly distrusting assistant to Soha, was Banjium's twin sister in her past life. And his love interest, Yoon Choon, was Banjium's sister in her immediate past life. The webtoon acknowledges how bizarre this is. And they have fun with it. It's cute.
Uh-huh.
The drama never had that potential to begin with. So they just made Yooncho Banjium's sister in her first life, first of the 19 she lives. Like, they were just sisters again.
Oh.
1,000 years back. Because making, Dawn her sister would have been too much for the drama. That's like too much gender bending.
So he's not. So in the drama, they don't even bring this up. Then him being her sister in past life.
It just never happened. Shinhei-san is the only one who can possibly gender bend convincingly. Nobody else can. Apparently, I don't know. Manhood would just die.
Are there any other, I don't mind hearing spoilers. Are there any other plot ending spoilers that you want to talk about, since we're in spoiler territory anyway?
There are a few, but honestly, I would just tell you to go and read the webtoon. The one thing I would say about the absolute ending, if you're listening to spoilers, listen on anyway. A slow but sure conflict that sort of became gradually a big thing in Banjium's life is the fact that she'd been carrying around the weight of so many lives, right? In her mind, just stories, the feelings, all of that. It's something that she had gotten used to, the burden of, but it was something that was really heavy to carry around. But also, she didn't know when this cycle would break. Like, when could she stop reincarnating because she was tired? And so she finds out a way. Mm-hmm. And in the webtoon, I will tell you what the cost of that is. All she has to do is a certain something, and then she loses all her memories of her past lives. However, she still knows that she had lived past lives. She theoretically knows what had happened. It all feels like stories that has been told to her versus lived experience sitting in her heart, taking up space in her brain. You know what I mean?
So it's not like she has amnesia. It's just that she can't access those memories as if they happen to her anymore.
Exactly.
Okay.
But guess what route the drama chooses?
Amnesia.
Correct. And not only of the past 18 years, she forgets everybody in her 19th life too. Like all the people of her past lives that she had sought out and built relationships with, including her mother figure.
No.
The woman she had grown up with for 14 years.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely not watching this.
I know, I'm so sorry. I kind of feel like, why am I apologizing? I didn't decide on that.
No, I mean, I think I need to thank you for sharing, for doing the work, sharing the information with us.
I hope if you guys were planning on actually watching the whole thing, that you didn't listen to the spoiler. But if you did, let me know if you guys were convinced by the drama's argument that she could still be the same person despite having no memories of her past lives or of all of the things she did in this life to grow up to be the person she is. She ends up, she loses her memories, but she is a snap of a finger. We don't know how much time passes, but she is doing the job she was at the beginning of the drama, as in when she grew up into Banjium. No explanation. What was her life like? Who did she grow up with? What is her memory? Because everybody else remembers the real timeline, so to speak. There was no alternate reality happening. She just lost her memory. Time didn't change. So
that's so lazy.
It's so and then of course the people who love her come to her to rebuild relationships, and the drama is basically telling us that everything will go back to normal. She'll rebuild all her loving relationships, because they will not leave her alone, so to speak, in the most loving way and not the...
I hate that so much.
Why is it that dramas think that we don't need our memories to be who we are? Why is it? This has happened multiple times. I hate it so much. Could you please stop? Yeah. Okay, end of spoiler. Okay.
All right. So those were our thoughts on See You in My 19th Life. Paroma recommends they don't finish it.
Please don't finish it.
And watch the
Go read
webtoon
the webtoon.
instead. Yes,
Yes.
read the webtoon instead.
신성한 변호사 신성한 모든 걸 겸비한 섹시 가이 섹시남
개업하면 나 사무장으로 오라더라고.
사무실 일 그렇게 좀 해봐라 투박하고 멍청하고 미친놈 친구야
지 건물에다 개업하겠지.
So, well, let's talk very briefly about a drama that's been out for a while, but I know you and I both watched it, so we thought we'd just like chat for a short amount of time about it. This is Divorce Attorney Shin. It's basically about Jo Sung-woo, who's a lawyer. He's a divorce lawyer. We don't know much about his past when we start the drama. We just know that he left like a very great career as a professor of music in Germany, and he came to Korea, became a lawyer, and now he runs this like ghatiya little law office in Seoul, and he helps people with their divorces. And it's a little bit case of the week, but then there's also like a larger story of like about his past and him coming to terms with his past, why he became a lawyer. He has two best friends that he spends a lot of time with. They're just like these like three single dudes in their 40s, and I love them. I feel like if we were three single dudes in our 40s who lived in the same city, this would be us, maybe minus the alcohol, but like everything else, I can see us doing this. Miyu and Saya.
There is a line in the My Drama List a summary which is pretty much from the drama, and it says he finds solace in the company of his two closest friends, Jang Kyun-gyun and Jo Jang-shik, who are fellow 40-year-old youths, which is perfect.
Yes,
That's exactly who they are.
And not in like an annoying, gross way of like these 40 plus dudes who never grew up. They're not man children. They're just so young at heart, and they love each other so sincerely, and it's just like their friendship is so lovely. I think that was my favorite part of the drama.
I wouldn't say that the cases of the week were particularly interesting to me. There were quite a few hits and misses. I did love the sensitivity and honestness with which he honestness, is that
honesty?
Honesty? Yeah, sorry. The sensitivity and the honesty with which he approached each case and the reasons that he had for taking those on. But I was never really, like, none of the cases really caught me. So I was watching it just because of Jo Sung-woo, basically, and his voice.
Yeah, and like you start out with Han Hae-jin as his first, like, she's the first case of his that you kind of get into, and it seems like she's kind of going to be the heroine, but it doesn't. I mean, her character is very much in the side, like she doesn't have a lot to do. The case that he takes on for her is almost like it's a character moment for him, because it's like, why would you take this case? Oh, well, the reason is because of his history, which you find out, later. So she doesn't have much to do, which is kind of a shame because I love Han Hae-jin and I haven't seen her in a while. So I was really excited to see her. There's also this weird through line in the entire drama, which, like, I don't know if this is like the stance that the drama is taking. I don't know if you noticed this, Forma. No one is ever faithful to their partner. Yeah. There are so many unfaithful wives and husbands. I was just like, is there any like happy marriage? Like, no one who's married. I actually like went through and counted, and I couldn't find anyone who was happily married and their partner wasn't cheating on them, or they weren't cheating on their partner, which is like very weird. I mean, I understand having a couple because he's a divorce attorney, but it wasn't even just his clients. There were like so many other people in the drama that were just like adultery here and there. So, I mean, I don't know if the drama is trying to say that like no one ever stays faithful to their marriage, which is like, I don't know. I don't think I'm on board with that message personally. I think that's just a weird thing that I noticed.
Definitely had a pretty cynical take on marriages. They were like friendships over marriages any day. On the one hand, it looked at it didn't look at infidelity as it wasn't like a weapon of shaming, so to speak, or like of tearing down characters. But they did seem to have like a general
Well, it was like,
I don't know,
it was like this
philosophy of-
weird attitude of almost like, oh, like infidelity is inevitable, so you might as well just
Yeah, it's like
accept that. And I'm like not really
Yeah,
okay with that. I didn't like that personally.
I didn't like that either, especially because, as he said, it went beyond just just his cases. Because a lot of divorce lawyers do have a very cynical view of marriages because
Naturally, it makes sense, right?
Yeah. Like really cynical abuse. I remember watching this interview of a divorce lawyer. This was a couple of years back. And there was some other case, like a big celebrity case that was happening. And then this person was invited on to for an interview. And they were like, if you had my job, you would just see every marriage and like you would just assume the worst of every couple. It's sadly
right. I mean, it's what do you call that? Like occupational disease
hazard.
Kind of. Yeah, occupational hazard, which is that would be totally understandable if he was the one with that perspective.
He wasn't though.
But he wasn't.
He seemed to like face everything with like, tell me I will accept, the situation as it is without like burdening it with my prejudice. But the show itself seemed to have like inbuilt prejudice.
Yeah,
So
that was the
there
weird thing.
that.
It was like, it would be understandable if he was the one that was like, oh yeah, all marriages fail, because he only ever sees marriages that fail and he's not married himself. So it's not like he has like a reference of a happy marriage to fall back on. I don't think he has any happy marriages in his life, actually. But the drama is like, oh yeah, this divorce lawyer takes every case on its own merits and doesn't judge. But really, in real life, everyone cheats on their partner. And eventually you're just going to get divorced. Because
Monogamy
marriage
is
is...
a myth.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are my main thoughts. It was an enjoyable watch. I liked how Jo Sung-woo was like leaning into his weirdness. And I always love when he leans into his weirdness because he's so good and charming and like funny when he does that.
He's goofy and sweet, and he was clearly having a lot of fun, which made watching his character a lot of fun.
100% agreed.
It's one of those things that works for certain actors, like Nam Hung Min, for instance. I watch a lot of his shows, at least to a certain extent, because of how he seems to enjoy playing certain parts, and not really because the show is so great.
Right. You can tell when the actor is really having a good time. It just makes the vibe of the whole show better. Oh, and his relationship with his nephew was really lovely.
So sweet.
That was really nice. Yeah. That's really all I had to say.
Yeah, me too. I have nothing to add.
Yeah. It's a nice, short, kind of not too intense drama. Nice, like, easy watch. So I would recommend it. Okay. Well, we're going to get back to our scheduled programming with Saya. So let's switch back over to that now.
진짜로 돈이 많으면 뭐 하고 싶어? 동생들이랑 샷이 잘 된 아파트에 살고 싶어.
우리가 찾는 건 700억.
뭐 아는 거 있으면 지금 말해.
죄송합니다. 그쪽으로는 아는 게 없는데.
So the last drama we're going to talk about is Little Women, which everyone has already watched except me, but I just finished it. And I told you guys that I have things to say about it, but I really kind of don't. I just want to say it was so good. And like everything about it was so good. The cinematography, the writing, the characters, the acting, every episode was a different genre. And I found that like really genius. This is like it's like a writer's drama as well, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's like high quality prestige TV, but not in like the sort of pejorative way that people have started saying that, but like actually legitimately like very high quality prestige TV.
Yeah. Okay, that's all.
That's all?
No, okay. I mean, I just wanted to talk to you guys about... Do you know what the drama it made me think of the most was Beyond Evil? I think like the comparison, like these are, like dramas. So if you like Little Women, you should try Beyond Evil if you haven't already watched it. Like, there's this point where I was watching and I was like, oh, this is like, that drama, Woman of 9.9 billion won something. I can't remember the title of the drama. Yeah. There's a portion of the drama that's like that. Then there's the portion that's like a murder mystery. Then there's a portion that's like a psychological thriller. Then you have all of these unreliable narrators, and like everybody's an unreliable narrator. It was just really good. And
the characters are so well drawn. Yes.
Yeah. I didn't realize how long it's been. Like, I'm one of those people who doesn't notice if I haven't been watching women until I watch a lot of women. I'm like, all the women. And because the characters, they change so much, as in they go through a lot and they get a lot of development, but they also don't fundamentally change who they are. You just get to know them better, and yes.
Yeah. And the way that the drama reveals information about people slowly over time is just like masterclass.
Yeah. And like Ji-won's character, which was just like nuts. That was a really, like, the experience of watching it, like what you go through as a viewer was really intense in a kind of thrilling, not quite dark, but almost like it goes to really dark places, but you don't ever feel like overwhelmed by the darkness.
Yeah, it's not like gloomy or depressing. It's kind of, it's just thrilling. It's dark in like a more thrilling and intense way. Like every time I finished an episode, I was just like,
yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't watch them back to back because it was a lot.
Exhausting.
Yeah, definitely.
It is.
Definitely. It was fun to watch as it was airing for that reason, because like it was 2 episodes and then you're like, okay, I'm good for another week. Yeah, like I'm good to wait. I need some time to process that.
Yeah, and like digest it all. And like if you asked me what the drama was about, I can't actually tell you. Like I would have started by saying, oh, this drama is about, 3 sisters. And I'd have to stop there. Like what else can you say after that?
I mean, it's about so many things, right? Like the power of money to change you, the hold that poverty has on you, the way that rich people and poor people interact with money differently, the way that like how that interacts with like your identity and your self-worth, and what is justified in a world where like the power and the money is so imbalanced in favor of some people. Like, is a crime still really a crime? Like when the injustice is so bad and it's and the people that you're up against are so evil. Like, I mean, it's very interesting.
Yeah, and like the villain shift as well. Like the way, like it's not a drama that has like a clear. It has clear protagonists and it has clear antagonists, but like there's not a single big bad in the way of a traditional.
And no one is truly innocent.
Exactly.
No one is truly innocent. And what I really loved, now that you're talking about it, a lot of it is coming back to me. So, oh my gosh, I can't remember what's the name of the actor, the main actress?
Kim Go-eun.
Kim Go-eun, yes. I loved Kim Go-eun's actress performance and her character, because so often in these types of dramas where like, it's like a regular person who stumbles across something really crazy and then like their whole life changes, kind of like, like the Pelican Brief or something like that, which I know that's like a deep cut from the 90s if anyone has seen that movie or read that book. But like their whole life changes and they have to do all this crazy stuff and they can't tell anyone about it. So like a lot of times it doesn't succeed because the character is doing stuff and you're like just no longer on board. You're like, why would you do that? No. And like, but she's also not perfect. Like she makes a lot of mistakes, but they're like mistakes that you can understand why she would make them, and they're very human. And so you're always rooting for her, even though you're like, oh no, like, but you know why she did that, and like it's because of who she is as a person, and it makes so much sense. So she's like flawed, but still you can root for her at the same time, which I feel like is a really hard needle to thread.
Yeah, like she goes far, but then she always pulls back at the last moment before you kind of lose faith in her.
Yes, exactly. She never
and
loses
Nam Ji-hyun
you.
does the same. Yeah. Even like all 3 of the sisters, they do that. Like they will, like, imagine if they're on elastic and they'll stretch it really, really tense.
So
until you're on the brink of letting them go.
Kim Go-eun never lost me. Nam Ji-hyun took me a while to warm up to her, but once I did. The youngest sister, I don't know. It was really like I had a hard time with her. I kind of was okay with her by the end, but really,
that was it.
It was a journey.
And also, if you consider the fact that she's a kid,
Literally
that
the only
sort
reason
of-
I was continuing to give her grace. My mom was just
Yeah,
like, I hate
yeah.
her. I hate her. She's the worst. I was like, she's a teenager. My mom was like, no.
I had that.
Yeah, I don't think the teenager excuse works. I didn't like her. I was fine by the ending because she made the right choices, but that was not-
literally the only reason. Throughout, I just disliked her. I do want to say one thing that I didn't bring up before. I don't think I talked about this in the year-end yak last year, but I have kind of. I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, this isn't a Little Women adaptation. Like, why not just make a separate drama? Why did it have to be Little Women? This is so weird." But now that it's been a while, I mean, I never really had that issue. I was like, whatever, it's a different take. But now I'm thinking about it. I feel like having that story in the back of your mind as you go into this story and like thinking of that story, it adds like a layer of enjoyment to this story. And I can't like exactly explain what it is, but I think what it does is like it gives you a lot of the sort of unspoken emotional tensions of the family. Because before you even really get to know them, like you kind of have that scaffolding, I guess, like emotional scaffolding as for the characters. And so even though like the way things work out, like it's far in the future, right? Of like the ages that they were in the book or the adaptations that we've seen. But you know, like Beth's already dead. They have like this picture of her. Dad's not in the picture. Or no, he is. I mean, the parents are kind of doing their own thing. Joe and Lori have already like broken up and moved on. He's obviously still in love with her. But like you have all that backstory, and like even if it's not exactly the same, you kind like Hermione, what's her name? Meg? Is Kim Gunn supposed to be Meg? She is, right?
Is she? I couldn't figure out to the end of the drama.
Meg and Beth. That's what I got.
I don't think so because
she's
Beth,
not Amy.
No. Amy doesn't exist in this story.
No, Amy is Ine, the artist. Amy.
Oh yeah, sorry. Amy is the youngest.
Yeah, Beth is the dead one.
Beth is the dead one.
I mean, as in the dead baby.
But no,
was
but what
Beth.
I think.
But I think the two older sisters, I couldn't figure out which was meant to be Joe and Meg.
Nam Ji-hyun is definitely Joe because she has this rich boy who's loved her whole life that she's not interested in him, but they're like besties. She's a writer. She's disappointed with the world, which, you know, very Joe. And then like Meg.
But she's also not the main character.
She's not the main character, which is fascinating.
Which I thought was a really interesting
And Kim
reframing.
Gun, I think, is a Meg through and through, actually, because she is like a Meg who got married to a guy that she thought would help her family.
Oh, I forgot.
But he turned out
about
to be a
that.
con artist. So now she's like a very disillusioned and bitter version of Meg, but who still kind of has that tendency to like trust people, which is why she kind of makes some of the mistakes that she makes. Like she is trusting. I don't think that she's Beth. I think Beth is still Beth. Like the youngest baby is still.
Yeah, but like you know how they take personalities and then okay, so that's a good point. I guess her trusting nature was what I saw Beth in mostly, but
But Meg also had a trusting nature, right?
I kind of saw Meg as a bit more passive, whereas
I
Kim
didn't
Gun
see her.
didn't.
I didn't see her as passive. I always saw Meg as somebody who just accepted the world as it was and chose to, entrust.
Yeah, I guess that's slightly different than being
That's a take.
trusting, but it's like.
I mean, I see her as a
has some
Jane Bennett
overlap.
kind of character.
Yeah.
No, but you know what? The thing is, while I was watching the drama, and people were like, "This is not an adaptation." It is an adaptation. It's basically them reading Little Women, situated in ye old West, kind of historical Americas, and then they decided, hey, what if this story somewhat happened in modern day Korea in a lower middle class family? The parents would just be all over the place. The sisters would be desperate to survive. They would all have their own desires.
And they had the
Nothing
rich
would be-
aunt, which is
They had the rich aunt.
Yeah.
Yep.
They have all of the parts, but everything is not working the same way because the societal structure is completely different. So I thought it was a great adaptation.
I think
it
when
was.
people hear the word adaptation, they're looking for something that's very straightforwardly and literally an adaptation.
Faithful, yeah.
And I think
that's kind of
this
the
is
genius
kind
of this show.
So, I'm going to tell you something that I've been seeing in fan fiction lately, which is a fusion. So people will say, like, this isn't a crossover. it's a fusion. And what they mean is like they've taken some elements from another story and they've like fused those, and so they've set whatever story they're writing a fanfic for, they've set that like in sort of like with those elements that they've taken, but it has nothing to do with that story. And the only thing that they've taken is those elements to kind of set up the plot or the characters or the premise. And I feel like this feels a little bit more similar to that, or is maybe between that and adaptation. I don't know. Maybe. But anyway, I just wanted to bring up that like I do like that I don't think that it would have been the same drama if it had just been like a completely unrelated to Little Women. It hadn't, taken any inspiration from that. I think it really works.
But it's also possible to watch it as a standalone.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
for
possible
sure.
to watch it as a standalone.
With like a lot of richness.
But for us, identifying those little familiar bits was also part of
the
enjoyment.
excitement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, it's true.
It added so much.
When the Beth character came up, I was like, oh, Beth.
So that was Little Women, and that was The Long Yak. But before we run off, I just quickly want to thank these two for getting me to watch Fruits Basket, finally.
発見です。お家が建っていました。
本田さ、迷惑なんて思ってないから甘えてよ。よう、首洗って待ってたか？
Oh!
I didn't watch the original one. I watched the 2019 one, and I loved it. It's so good, and even the music was so good. The art was so good. The emotions were so good. I was just so
Did you
happy
finish
with
all of it.
Yeah, I
haven't yet.
I still need to watch. I still need to watch
finished
season
watching
3. I think because when I watched it, only 2 seasons were out, and I was waiting.
Yeah, when I watched it, 1 season was out.
Okay.
And so I was like, I'll just wait until it finishes. And then I restarted it, but I haven't finished.
But I think that the 2019 version is superior to the older version.
But it would be, because the 2019 one was made after the manga was completed, whereas the original anime was before it had been completed. So they couldn't tell the same story. Like, they didn't have the information to put in all of the, what do you call it?
Foreshadowing?
Foreshadowing. There you go. Yeah, they didn't have the information to put in all of the foreshadowing that you could do when you have the full story in hand.
Correct.
Read the manga. The manga's really, really good. It's like,
eventually I absolutely will. I'm still basking on like having finished it, and the genius of the 3 season thing was they were basically going through 2 to 3 years of Toru staying with the Somas, and each year was pretty much a season, and so you could see some of the characters growing up across the seasons. That was fun. And also I feel like I didn't look it up, but I feel like some of the creators behind the scenes probably changed season to season, because I could feel like the treatment of the character, like handling of them, was slightly different. And it might be slightly jarring to some people, but I thought that added to it. Felt like the characters were different as they were growing up, like they were maturing. So I enjoyed that. I basically loved it completely, and I will probably end up reading the manga too.
Okay, can I reiterate my recommendation for Inuyasha, please? You guys will love it.
I started Inuyasha.
Oh, you did?
I started it. I asked you, right? Like, yeah,
The anime?
The anime. I started
okay,
because it's on
I'll put it on my
Netflix.
list.
So I've been going through Netflix anime. It's just some really wild anime on Netflix right now. So there is one where this accountant guy from normal world is zapped into this alternate world, which is basically like Western medieval world where they need a hero. So they summoned a hero, and this accountant from the modern world, from modern Japan, came to them, and he's sorting out their kingdom by sorting out their accounts.
What's that one called?
I don't remember, but I'll put it in the description.
Okay. I've been trying to watch Full Metal Alchemist.
I love
I've made
that.
6 attempts or something, and I still haven't been able to get through one episode.
Listeners,
Not because it's
if
not
you want to
good,
hear us
but-
talk about anime, send us an email.
let us know.
And we will do an episode. And if you don't want to hear us talk about anime, also please tell us that.
Okay, one last shout out and then we're out. So Sai and I had done this episode on Our Blooming Youth, our wrap-up spoiler episode, and I had loudly claimed that nobody but the three of us watched Idol the Coup. And so someone on Twitter piped up and said, I watched. I'm so sorry, I can't find your tweet right now, so I can't give your name a shout out, but I see you have watched. And also we got an email from Scott Schultz. I hope I pronounced your name right.
Yes.
And he has also watched.
So now we know at least 2 more people have watched it.
Correct. I've also been
Definitely 5
reassured
people have watched it.
that at least a dozen other people have definitely watched it. So
Very
that's
exciting.
A start.
There's a community of us. Small little community. Oh, can I just say the person who said that they watched it on Twitter is Ashley Lee. Thank you, Ashley Lee.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you, Ashley.
For giving us some hope.
Validating
for
our
humanity.
existence.
Ashley was the one who said there are dozens of us.
Right.
Wow.
Thanks for letting us know. Okay. Where can we be found? Sarah.
So if you want to tell us about also watching Idol, or whether there's an anime that we have to watch that we haven't got to yet, you can find us on Twitter at Dramas Overflow. You can find me at Not Now Saya.
You can find me at Anissa Khalifa _. No, we will not be referring to this platform as X.
That will never happen.
I forgot about that.
You can find me, Paroma, at The Drama Notes. You can find Dramas Over Flowers on Instagram and Threads at dramasoverflowers _ and you can email us, dramasoverflowers@gmail.com.
And you can find us on Facebook. We're Dramas Over Flowers, and our website is dramasoverflowers.net, where you can find essays and interesting ruminations. You can also find those in our newsletter, which is dramasoverflowers.substack.com. There's also a link in the description for you to click and subscribe.
Yay. And thanks for listening, everybody. Thank you especially to our patrons for supporting us over the days, months, and years that you've been with us. We are always grateful for that. And we hope you're checking in on our voice note diaries.
Loniacs.
Loniacs. We can't decide what to call them. And yeah, be sure to check in almost every week or nearly every week. Let's not even add that part. Be sure to check in for new ones. That's all for today. Thanks for tuning in and take care, everybody, and bye-bye.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.